The presenting sponsor for OnEducation is Classcraft. We're excited to announce Classcraft's new story mode, which makes it easy for educators to harness the power of stories. Episodes 1 and 2 of Season 1 are ready for you and your students to play today, and it's completely free. To learn more about Classcraft and the new story mode, simply visit classcraft.com/oneducation.
It's like, oh, Glenn, talk dirty to me. Welcome to OnEducation, part of the On Podcast Media Network. My name is Mike Washburn.
And I'm Glen Irvin. Friends, we have an awesome pod for you today. It's our second anniversary this week. On the podcast, we'll talk about the coronavirus and how it's impacting schools and how we can best teach remotely. Our guest this week is professional development consultant Naomi Harm.
2 years, buddy.
I can't believe it, actually. I mean, it's weird that it was March that we kind of started. I mean, we started the process before that, but March we actually recorded something.
Yeah, March was when the trailer, I guess that little awkward trailer came out. Mm-hmm. That, you know, when you listen to it now, you go, ooh. The first episode came out just a couple weeks later, but we're going to call this our second anniversary episode because it's our damn podcast and we can do whatever we want. So, buddy, happy anniversary. 2 years.
2 years. 138 episodes.
38 episodes.
That's quite a lot, actually. I was just thinking, I was like, that's pretty good. 2 years down the road, we're doing pretty damn good.
We started from the bottom, now we're here. Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
did it anyways. No, it's exciting. 2-year anniversary. Thanks to everyone who's listened.
Yes, thank you.
Shares and talks. There's lots of awesome conversations.
I want to know who's the people that were here, some of the people that were here since the beginning. Since
the beginning. That we absolutely know about. Listen, if you have listened to every single episode of OnEducation, you need to weigh in.
Yeah, let us know.
I'm curious. I would imagine, if I had to guess, I bet Sarah Thomas has maybe listened to every episode or close.
Yes, and some Schoology ambassadors, maybe Schoology employees too. Yeah, I think there's just some people out there who just listened right from the beginning. They just picked it up, and we somehow didn't deter them.
No, I got a job because of it, so whatever.
And 138 episodes down the road, they're still listening to this one here. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yes, you guys are amazing and so supportive, and this has grown crazy. I mean, it really, when we talk about our setup, at these conferences, it's all due to our listeners. Listeners being able to then support, or then we get our endorsements or our sponsors, and then being able to then travel to these places and be able to do live shows and so on and so forth. But none of it is possible, obviously, without actually you guys out there listening. So thank you again.
Yeah. And now we're going to segue into the reason why everyone actually listens to us, and then talk about
random stuff.
I'll tell you, man, no joke. I sent my wife a message this afternoon because we went out last weekend and went to, in Canada, they have a store called Bulk Barn. It's a bulk food store, but they got do you have bulk food stores places in the United States? So you
just
go
exclusively
and there's bins of stuff.
Okay.
Right.
We have those in some grocery stores, but not like that.
So those are in grocery stores too, but there's actually a chain of stores called Bulk Barn in Canada. And it's a trap, right? Because, there's important stuff on the outsides, but like the 3 middle rows in the inside of this damn store are full of like things that are destined to kill you, like candy, and gummy bears and stuff like that. And
it's pick awesome. Up pounds of that.
Oh my God, it's the best store. I'm telling you, Bulk Barn is amazing. And so we went there last weekend. We haven't been in a while because I wanted some like peanuts or something. That's what I was craving. But today I'm like doing work and I'm like, I want candy. And why was I so dumb that I was in Bulk Barn and I didn't buy candy? So Cheryl did me a solid today as I was writing out the outline. You can't see it because you're obviously this is a podcast, so this makes a great radio, friends. But right over there beside me is a huge bag full of candy that Cheryl went and bought me while I was writing the outline tonight. That I'm going to just jam my face into as soon as this is done.
What kind of candy did you get?
Oh my God, dude. Like, so you're a candy, not
fanatic.
I wouldn't call it snob, but you're a connoisseur of candy.
Yes.
There's these little marshmallow strawberries. They're kind of like, I'm not going to call them Peeps because Peeps are gross. And they're also, obviously, Peeps are big. These are cherry / strawberry flavored little marshmallows, little teeny tiny marshmallows. And they are so damn good.
You got to bring me some of those. I've never heard of that. I think you've told me about this before. Those specific candies, and I'm like I've ate every kind of candy, so I need to taste some of those.
Yeah, no, they're so good. So she bought me some of those, and I'm so happy. I'm gonna get into it. You're a Skittles guy.
Mm-hmm. If anybody wasn't following us on Twitter or doing this,
hysterical.
For some reason, our good friend and colleague Dave Blanchard he posted something. It was this TikTok video. That's what it was. It was a TikTok video where these two young women, basically make some nachos using chips and then melting some Skittles on it, right? They put it in the microwave and they eat it. And he said some kind of comment, like it reminded him of me because, again, we've told some of these stories where Mike and I will be in the hotel room and it'll be like 1 o'clock in the morning and then all of a sudden he'll see me eating like some kind of...
And it's just jamming on the candy hard. Friends in the hotel room, like it's every time we go somewhere, guys, Glenn, we have to go to like a CVS or a Target or something, like, and we find the nearest one, and he just like pillages the candy aisle like you wouldn't possibly imagine. It's awesome. Like, I mean, it's good, and he shares, which is important
for sure, for sure.
But it's super funny, and it's become a thing now that we do, because now we just go and get junk food up because we get the damn hotel. It's out of control, people. It's really out of control.
So everybody saw that, and then randomly we started posting this kind of back and forth about how much I love Skittles and blah blah blah. And then what was so awesome is whoever's controlling the Skittles Twitter account. Yeah. This is late at night. Starts weighing in on different comments about us. You know, you must love the flavor, the rainbow flavor, and blah blah blah, whatever it might be. So it was super funny. We enjoy our Skittles and our all kinds of different candy though too. So it's not just Skittles.
Skittles weighing in on our Twitter chat was hysterical. So we didn't have a podcast last week.
Nope.
As hopefully people noticed. We did a live stream instead, which was the first time we decided to do something like that. It was kind of fun until it got shut down by YouTube, for breaking the rules. We will talk about that just a little. I mean, obviously you can't stream like live TV on YouTube through Zoom, I guess.
Who knew?
Commercials were being played, so I don't know what the heck the actual problem is. Not a lot of critical thinking going on at YouTube in terms of the content controls. I mean, it's a computer anyways, right? It's just an algorithm.
It's algorithm, yep.
But we had some of our friends, Brad Treffler, Dan Krynis, who else? Mayor jumped in, Mark Otter jumped in for a bit. Who else was there?
Dave Blanchard was there.
Dave Blanchard was there for virtually the whole time. And we talked politics. and we watched
Super Tuesday.
Super Tuesday. We watched the Biden bounce take place right in front of our very eyes.
Yes. You guys were very upset.
Yeah, well, listen,
I didn't vote for Biden, but that he ended up winning Minnesota. I'm still okay. I'm okay. Yeah, my biggest concerns will be on November.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We'll see what happens in November, and then I can go into full panic mode and make a trek up north, and we'll see.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I'm not sure if I've ever explicitly said that I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter, but I mean, I think that you could tell by my personality and, how I talk about other things related to politics.
Your socialist ways?
I am very much a democratic socialist, already. I was a democratic socialist before Bernie. No, not before Bernie Sanders, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, listen, but I'm also a very, I'm pragmatic, I think. And I love Elizabeth Warren, and
yes.
I even liked a lot of the things about Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar and Andrew freaking Yang.
Andrew Yang. We talked about him a lot. Yeah.
I love him. Think he's great. And I'll tell you, I'll even say this, and it's not the most popular opinion in the world.
Let's hear it.
But Mike Bloomberg had a lot of money, and you can do a lot of things with that much money. You can write whatever damn narrative you want, and clearly we've seen based on 2016 that when you can define your narrative, people are going to bite on it and take it no matter what it is, whether it's true or not. So, while Bloomberg was definitely trying to reframe some of the crappiest parts of his history,
sure,
$1.6 billion dumped into a general election. And would be nothing for him.
No.
And that was literally what he was selling people is, I will buy you this election just to get you out of this nonsense.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You just have to deal with, the fact that I had some moderately racist policies and was generally a misogynist. And if you can set those...
But besides that,
I have a lot of money. And I'm not lying. I think it might have worked. It wouldn't be my first choice. It wouldn't be my fifth choice.
It was working. And it was working. If Elizabeth Warren... I'm sorry, we're doing some politics stuff here. But anyway, if Elizabeth Warren wouldn't have destroyed him in the first 4 seconds of that first debate,
we'd have a whole different scenario right now.
And I'm super happy that she did. Obviously, yes, but it didn't take more than it was within the first minute for sure. I'm exaggerating about 4 seconds, but it was in the first minute, and she really knew how to hone in on that. And obviously, he couldn't come back from that. But plus, he's in there so late. Who knows, whether or not he would have done that? But he was destroyed really quickly.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Warren's greatest legacy of this presidential campaign is that she set fire to Mike Bloomberg in the first 30 seconds of his coming out party. So I mean, it was over. What
I was thinking of though, Mike, is I was trying to flip those kind of the narrative, the roles there too. Elizabeth Warren being a former special education teacher, coming from humble beginnings, whatever it might be, and kind of basically her whole campaign was on life support, barely the whole thing. And even though they spend millions and millions of dollars, it's still not enough, as far as to be able to kind of go through it. What if the roles were reversed and she had the billions behind her? And she was able to basically get her message out, her bigger message out to all of us.
Yeah.
That might have made a difference. And that sucks. I think that's a big thing. I mean, that we're missing out again. We are not going to have a woman on the, at least to be able to have potentially to be able to vote for president, for her. And it's sad. Her and Amy, were the last, two women. Well, I guess Tulsi Gabbard was too. And that's, in a way, it's devastating. I can see why people were so upset by that. I mean, it's obviously because of the character of Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar, but just the concept that once again, we have these older white men that are the representatives again of this country. We have a long ways to go, man. We have a long, long ways to go still.
We could always vote for Andrew Walls.
Yes. So yeah, go ahead.
Andrew Walls
Yes.
is a proven business leader, passionate advocate for students. That sounds great.
Yeah.
A Republican from Rhode Island. Well, okay, he's a Republican. You know, and entirely fake.
Yes. This kid ended up creating a fake candidate on social media and ended up getting all of this buzz around this presidential candidate that didn't even exist. And then what it basically, with minimal amount of money, I mean, no money, just really mad skills as far as being able to go ahead and post some really hot takes, get some people really behind you, get some Russian bots also supporting you or whatever it might be, and really had a freaking huge following of this fake candidate. And it just finally came out with it and goes, by the way, everybody, this guy doesn't really exist. You know, I just made this whole thing up, which just shows you the power of social media and how quickly things can catch fire. And we've talked about this before, even if they're fake. You know, in this case, it was a fake person, a fake candidate that a kid, a 17-year-old kid created, which I think super kudos to him for bringing this again, showing this right to our faces, to our light, bringing it to light, and then showing maybe even his, other students that the power, the power of social media, how much power it actually holds as far as influencing us in our decisions, in this case, elections, who we're going to vote for. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, and fantastic. We're definitely going to have to link that CNN article to our show notes.
So we probably couldn't do an episode right now without talking about the virus taking the world by storm. In more ways than one. In fact, if it wasn't for the coronavirus, I would be speaking to you from Austin, Texas. I was supposed to go to South by Southwest, and I had this whole meticulously planned logistics plan to be in the hotel by 8:00 so that we could do the interview with Naomi and then do the podcast. And then I had tons of plans and stuff like that. And it was like, all right, now I don't got to worry about any of that. I'm just going to be home now. So South by Southwest was canceled.
Yes.
Collision Conference, which is a huge tech conference, was canceled. It looks like Spring Q is still happening as of today. Spring Q is still happening, though. You'll hear Naomi talk about the fact that some people aren't even allowed, districts aren't allowing people to travel, which is a whole other side thing related to this. I'm super curious about at what point ISTE starts talking about, at what point people start talking about ISTE and whether ISTE is going to happen or not. It's 24,000 of your closest friends.
Crazy.
Bumping into each other constantly for 3 days. It was gross in some ways to begin with, and now we're spreading a disease that can be traveled back to your hometown, and you can get your elderly, whatever grandmother sick and potentially kill her. I mean, it's I can see, it's complicated for sure. For sure. And our friend Carl Hooker, was
felt bad for him.
South by is his thing. It's been his thing for 15, 20 years. This is a big conference for Carl. Yeah. And it gets canceled. So Carl goes and he's like, screw this. I own a bar. I can just host it at my place. I think so. That's exactly what's happening is Carl has a pop-up South by conference. It's happening, tomorrow.
It was alt South by Southwest, right?
Southwest DDU. is happening.
Yeah.
He was trying, like, he was literally DMing me as I'm canceling my plane, and he's like, "Dude, no, don't." And I'm like, "I got to, man. I can't justify it. You know, I've only been in my job for 2 weeks. I don't want to get fired already." So I couldn't, by saying, even though the conference I'm totally, had to go for, I'm still going to go to Austin anyways and expense the whole damn thing. No, so I can't do it now. I'll tell you though, it's getting a little crazy, and it makes me wonder how ready we are for this. I mean, some districts are totally ready, and I have no doubt that there are superintendents and administrators just absolutely scrambling right now.
Absolutely. They're scrambling, and for good reason. At any point in time, we know that, what has already happened both in Asia and even in Europe and Italy. And very quickly, and that's what we were just having a discussion today with my principal, is all it takes is one student in our district, it'll shut the whole district down. And we even thought one student in any of the neighboring towns that we have, we probably would shut it all down. And then what do we do? What's the next steps? And that's the conversation that really needs to be had, is we need to have a plan in place of what's going to happen, have all of the logistics ready to basically roll out, and be confident with that that you have a plan, that it's going to work. That you have the infrastructure in place, the communication, all those kinds of things. But without that, it will feel like chaos. It will feel like, and there won't be any normalcy. And we need that normalcy, as educators and as our students, to continue, even though, we obviously would be in the face of something, as devastating as like a virus like this, but to continue, we can still continue the learning. We can still communicate with each other. We can still connect. I think that's the biggest things.
Totally. And so, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in creating a competent, distance learning, remote learning kind of infrastructure. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later for sure. This last one was really interesting. This is like our little Twitter hot take for the moment. Was pretty great. And I think I'll let you just talk to it because you found it, but I think it speaks to some of the stuff we've been talking about a little bit lately as well, right?
Yeah, it's I find some favorite things on Twitter, and this is definitely one of those post that makes me super happy, that is out there and that's being followed, and that hopefully it's influencing too, because I know that there's a lot of principals and superintendents and other educational leaders out there. And basically, I'll read you the post here. It says, "Art is not a reward. Music is not a reward. Playing outside is not a reward. Reading books of choice is not a reward. Field trips are not a reward. Food is not a reward. Being able to move in a classroom is not a reward. And children are human beings and should be treated as such." And we have had these conversations before. Even when we were putting down our list, we talk about art and music and how we can't take recess away, and how food is so important. And why are we treating it as something that's only certain kids will be able to have access to, when we're talking about, cafeteria rules and so on and so forth. The ability to be able to move around in a classroom. We've had these conversations where we say, it's so vital for our kids to be able to do that. And it's a great part of learning. So just a fantastic post. And again, I know this is just, somebody posting that obviously out there, but it should be basically our philosophy as educators. We shouldn't use these things that have been used in the past as far as ways to be able to go ahead and take things away, punishment, whatever you want to call it. We shouldn't be doing that. And we should have moved on from all those old, antiquated policies, and use these things as this is part of just being a human, obviously too, but it's part of our schools and our culture.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if you're using almost anything, to be honest, as leverage to force your students to learn, then I actually think you need to rethink how you're teaching, because, you shouldn't need leverage. No. You shouldn't need extrinsic reward. You shouldn't need a reward system to motivate your kids to learn. You should be using methods and tools and techniques that make kids want to learn, because the teaching is so good.
Because it's fun. Because you want to. It's interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So, miss me with using outdoor play as leverage, please. It's absolutely ridiculous. When we come back, the bests. And this week, we're going to talk about tools and tips for remote learning. So stay with us.
OnEducation is brought to you by Fidgets. Fidgets are interactive USB sensors that bring your code to life. There's no soldering or wiring required. Simply plug in a Fidget sensor, write code in your favorite language, and watch your ideas come alive. Fidgets are used by thousands of STEM professionals globally and are now available for computer science students. Simply go to bit.ly Fidgets on Education to get your introductory kit that includes a free sensor worth over $50. That's bit.ly Fidgets on Education. Welcome back to OnEducation and welcome to the best. Every week, Mike and I take you through a list of our top things, from books to games, from people to ideas.
For obvious reasons, it's all the talk right now, remote and blended learning. Some districts are ready, others not so much. Some have plans and some have been caught unprepared. This week on the best are the top tools and tips for remote learning. So let's get into it.
I think that the first thing I wanted to say is that my number one tip is not a tool. And I think I just think we get caught up when we're posting on Twitter, and I don't want to be negative as far as people doing this, as far as them posting about tools, because I don't think people mean to say that the solution is a tool.
Right.
Because we all know that it's not. There is no tool that solves whatever might be as far as this type of thing. So my number one tip is not a tool. It's the call out to our leaders, our principals, our superintendents, that we need to properly train our teachers. And we've talked about professional development and
constantly,
and it should not be something that's like, I hate to put it this way, but I'm going to say it anyway. It shouldn't be a choice for us as educators to just choose to either we're going to learn this or we're not. We have to learn these things. In this case, these things are effective ways of being able to either teach in a blended format, or if you already teach in a blended format, it is not that huge of a step, as we've talked about before, to teach in a completely online format. Mm-hmm. I've done both, and I didn't know that I could actually teach online, but a lot of the things I was doing in class that were blended methods, flipped videos, so on and so forth, different types of things, transitioned well to a completely online format. It is not the same thing. It requires some training. Yes, it does. But this the call out, the number one tip is, let's properly train our educators so that we are able to do this whenever the next emergency comes around. Right now, we have one sitting in front of us, but we don't know when the next one is going to be. But yet, we have millions of dollars of infrastructure and subscriptions and tools, etc., that can be used to be able to do this. So we need to make sure that our teachers are properly trained and that we have these high expectations for them too. That yes, we're training you. Yes, you can do it. Here's how we're going to lead you to be able to go ahead and do that. So as far as tools are concerned, I guess we could start out with what I think is the most important aspect. And whatever you choose to have, as far as for this specific, basically a communication hub, you need a place where everybody's going to go to be able to get instructions, to be able to communicate back and forth. And I'm talking about students and educators, but also parents, educators, students. That connection now needs to be it's more vital, because you need to be able to deliver that message, not just to the students, but also to the parents. You need a hub of communication. The one that I'm advocating for, or that we're advocating for, is the one that we've talked about as far as on this podcast before, because we have both used it, and it is the best tool for this. And what I'm talking about is Schoology. There's a free version of Schoology that is so robust, so amazing, and it allows you to, it's not just hosting of assignments and giving out grades, because that would be the most minimalistic way to describe what it actually is. It's basically the all-in-one hub where everything can take place. And the reason why you need an all-in-one hub is you don't want people to be looking in different places to be able to get communication back and forth. And I'm talking about people. We're talking about all of our stakeholders and our educators, everybody being on the same page. The communication hub, in my opinion, should be Schoology.
And there are a few other choices. Google Classroom, which a lot of people would have. I mean, some people use Teams for something like this.
Yes.
If you're in like an Office 365 exclusive kind of environment. And I would be remiss if I didn't plug the company I actually work for, Participate. And I want to frame this as not, I mean, this eventually will pass. Mm-hmm. But the problem of remote learning and, you know, it's never going away. If you're looking for a lasting solution, something, you know, where you can house, in particular, Participate is good with your professional learning. So not necessarily your student-facing content, but your teacher-facing content. Your place where you can do remote, self-directed learning on a platform where you can talk, other teachers can talk to each other. If a district is looking for something like that, that's Participate's bread and butter. Yeah. And there's a whole lot of power there as well. You know, so inside Schoology, there's an app that Schoology actually recently bought, at least a couple of years ago, I guess. And now they call it Conferences. So, you know, synchronous tools. These are ways, synchronous video communication type tools. And so we're also talking about things like Google Hangouts.
Yes.
And the one that I use, you know, I spend my entire day basically on Zoom at this point. So, you know, Zoom, Conferences, if you're using Schoology, Google Hangouts. I mean, these are going to be invaluable tools to you as you look to communicate, to have one-on-ones with specific students, but also group meetings, group conversations. Even, I mean, at this point, there's no reason why you can't do an entire like class basically on a platform like Zoom or Conferences or Google Hangouts. Just, you know, put a link in whatever platform you're using to deliver information, and then everyone joins it at a certain time. And you know, the best versions of this allow, you know, back and forth conversation, allow people to post notes and links and conversation in a chat or in a back channel. All three of the ones like that we've just said allow you to do that. So, you know, a necessary tool would be some sort of synchronous video. So you can deliver a synchronous lesson. So basically a live lesson is a good way to think of it. Or you can do asynchronous, and one of the best tools for that is Flipgrid. And we've talked about Flipgrid before. I think they're free on every one of our lists so far. Yeah, I know. All the good lists. Anyway. I know. It's free. It's easy to use. Yeah. It's multi-platform. Yeah. It can be an asynchronous way of communicating, both teacher to student, students to students, be able to comment on each other's stuff and keep that sense of community without everybody having to join in at the exact same time. So that's a fantastic way of thinking as far as asynchronous video, especially in an online format. Flipgrid is so dang easy. It's hard to give you anything else because there's other things that do similar. They try to do some things like similar to Flipgrid. It just nothing competes with it. No, not at all. So, you know, how do you share the content, the actual core content that you need to share with your class, be it, you know, video or audio or images or text. And so, you know, there are a lot of platforms for delivering, you know, the actual lesson content. You know, we would recommend something like Nearpod. Pear Deck would be another example of a tool that you could use. You can even use Google Slides to do this, or a Keynote and then share it or something like that. But if you want to do something that is like web-based, Nearpod, Pear Deck, and Google Slides would be your choices, good choices to use to deliver actual lessons for sure.
And I like, as far as on Nearpod, you can deliver it synchronously. So if you wanted to have a live lesson, you could get onto your conferences button
totally.
Or to Zoom or Google Hangouts, wherever it might be delivering the Nearpod lesson, embed questions so that the students could be formatively assessed, or even just to gauge their interests or gauge their opinions about things, whatever it might be, gather those types of things. And it feels more like a class then too, because you kind of have a back and forth. Or you can also just embed it inside of Schoology, for example, and then have it deliver the content asynchronously, have the videos embedded inside of it, the lesson content, etc. So far, whatever you actually want. And that's probably why it's one of my favorite tools as far as for lesson delivery. If you're interested in using YouTube videos, you shouldn't just use the YouTube video. I'm just giving you some friendly advice. It's okay. I highly recommend. There's a million YouTube videos out there that are so fantastic for all these different topics. Yeah. Just a great array of different things. But using the video by itself is very limited. If you use the video and then you use a tool like Edpuzzle and you embed that video inside of the Edpuzzle web platform, and again, it's free, you can actually put questions into it. You can have some opinion types of things, some reflection questions as part of the video, and it basically pauses as it delivers the video. It's a way better way of basically utilizing, even let's say it was a 20-minute video, you found the top 3 minutes that were the fantastic part that really were the most important. You can just clip that thing, embed some questions inside of it. And then if they're still interested in watching the rest of it, you can just provide a link and say, hey, if you want to watch the whole video, click here and then do whatever. And you can still do that. Just a way to be able to go ahead and focus in on the content. Yeah. Give them specific things to be thinking about. Sometimes even on Edpuzzle, you might not even write a question. You might just pause it and say, this is what's happening here. You kind of give them some background, some things like that, just like you would in class. Great way to be able to do that.
You would pause a video in class and kind of explain something out or break it down or dig a little bit deeper, take a deeper dive into a certain sentence or whatever. Edpuzzle is great. I've used Edpuzzle before, and I think it's awesome. I'm glad it's on this list because I think it's a really cool tool. As someone that used YouTube a lot in his teaching, I learned almost everything else. I'm telling you, almost everything I learned about technology, like whether it's Photoshop or Scratch or like game design, I learned that from YouTube. Yeah, seriously.
I know. I'm the same way.
So, as someone that does a lot of like learning by watching YouTube videos, I watch YouTube every night for easily an hour, close to it, because I learn tons of stuff on it.
Yes.
And Edpuzzle is a good tool to use for that. And so when you want to wrap things up, when you want to get a sense that your students have actually, taken in what you've talked about, whether you want to do, some sort of assessment. So there are a lot, like this is actually a place where the internet and education shines, in my opinion.
It really is.
There are tons of amazing, pretty engaging even, kind of quizzing / questioning, gamified in a lot of ways tools for asking questions. Tools like Quizlet or Deck Toys or one of our favorites, Gimkit. All of these tools have certainly an element of kind of gamified assessment, and some, even a lot of them have like achievements or credentials or some sort of currency. Like GimKit is known for its currency kind of way of rewarding students. And these are fun ways, people are using these tools in class all the time, and they translate perfectly to remote learning.
Absolutely. So if you can always come back to this segment of the best by checking out our blog at OnEducationPodcast.com or watching it on YouTube. Just search for OnEducation and check out the playlist. Do you want to support us at OnEducation? Check out our Patreon site at patreon.com/OnEducationPod.
When we come back, we'll be speaking to Naomi Harm, so stay with us.
OnEducation is brought to you by the Badge Summit. Do you have plans to attend the ISTE conference this summer? Come one day early and participate in the best hidden gem conference in the United States. Badge Summit 2020 will take place in Costa Mesa, California on June 22nd. There will be many amazing educators to collaborate with on topics such as digital badges, credentials, gamification, and more. To learn more about the Badge Summit, simply visit bit.ly/Badge Summit.
All right, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Naomi Harm is the founder and CEO of Innovative Educator Consulting. She and her team work collaboratively with national and international schools and organizations and higher ed institutions, providing professional development on a little bit of everything. So we're happy to have you join us, Naomi. Welcome to OnEducation.
Well, thank you for having me. It is a pleasure and honor to join you two gentlemen as a dynamic duo. And I hear you've got some celebration to kick this off tonight. You have to tell me a little bit. Let's celebrate.
Let's air, start. I guess we were talking. Yeah, it's exciting. I think this is our 2-year anniversary. So thank you. It's been this is episode 138 you'll be on, so it's been a lot of episodes, a lot of talking.
Yeah.
So before we get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, a little bit about yourself, and what brought you to us today?
Okay. Well, thank you so very much, Mike. I appreciate that. Well, as you've already heard, my name is Naomi Harm, and I'm joining you today from actually beautiful Cave Creek, Arizona. I'm originally a Midwestern girl, grew up on a dairy farm in Northeast Iowa. So my work ethic comes from the very proud virtues and values from my father, I would say, growing up on a dairy farm and being responsible for milking cows and doing all those wonderful chores before getting on the bus to take an hour bus ride to school every day. So we lived in a very rural and impoverished community. But I tell you, I'm extremely humbled and very proud of where I've come from. My career history basically is I'm a very passionate educator, have been a kindergarten teacher, 4th, 5th grade looping teacher, tech coordinator, and a technology director for 26 school districts in Wisconsin. From there, I've started my own company. It'll be 12 years this next year of a women in leadership company. Along that trip that I'm still on, I've had the pleasure and honor of working for Dell EMC and also Wonder Workshop. And they have really provided me a wonderful opportunity to enrich my understanding from a managerial perspective, project management, and also as a strategist. This past 2 years, I've really taken a deeper dive into really following my utmost passion, which has always been there as a woman in leadership strategist and a mentor, a coach, and just a colleague to so many other women leaders that are trying to find their niche or their fit in this ed tech world that we're living in, and how to start their own businesses and to really follow their passion of being a woman in leadership entrepreneur. So I get calls daily of, I'm running into this problem, or how did you approach this, or how did you handle this difficult conversation? So I'm doing a lot of mentoring right now.
Awesome. So let's actually talk about that a little bit. We're recording this on Monday the 9th. International Women's Day was just yesterday. So, and you spend a lot of time in this space, and like you just said, you're talking to women all the time, women who aspire to be leaders who already are leaders. And I'd like to say that we've made a lot of progress in this area, but we still have a long ways to go. What challenges, like when you say you're getting calls, what kind of calls are you actually getting? I'm interested in what women are actually challenged with, and what advice you're giving them, because I think that we do have some ways to go in this regard.
Exactly. Well, even just some recent ones that I've worked with, I've done coaching of a whole strategic team, actually a company that's located in the United States, but I'll keep their name confidential. I've worked with some pretty major companies. They're trying to help have the conversation of how we can have dynamic conversations with men and women at the table. Instead of always feeling that the men can overtalk the woman and that she has to take a seat back. And how do we as women really lean in to really use creative word choice, that we don't come off as being aggressive or being moody or something else, but really having the importance that we have something to say and we can back it up with the research or a strategy or method that we've known that's proven.
It's amazing that you even have to like talk about the nuance. And I mean, we see this all the time online, that there's memes and stuff about, you know, when a man is yelling and screaming and aggressive or whatever, he's just a boss being bossy, you know, and being assertive. And when a woman is like that, it's, you know, she's shrill and she's a B word and, you know, all of this other stuff. Right. I'm sure that's, you know, when as a woman leader yourself and also as someone who's coaching women leaders, I'm sure that that's something that you're facing that constantly. I'm imagining.
Yeah, I'm facing it constantly is right. And at the same time, to have your demeanor to be calm, but also that to be assertive. If somebody's kind of somewhat, you feel like you're being attacking, but how do you represent your best self every day? So I have learned over my 25 years in the educational realm that sometimes we just have to be a little bit more patient, because we have to understand if somebody's really confronting you with that may be perceived as an aggressive conversation, there's something really on their mind that they're passionate about, but then at the same time, there's something that's bothering them that they want the change, and there's an underlying a problem or something else that's eating away at them. So really helping be still compassionate, actively listen to understand, and letting them know that you're listening to understand. And that usually calms them down. And when they see that you don't get irate by their conversation, or if the tech isn't working right, you know, just being more calm, that actually kind of soothes the whole table that you're at. And they'll say, okay, she gets it. She knows what she's doing. And then they're more open to the conversation to say, okay, we're a little bit out of control here, but let's just take a few steps back and let's look at that underlying problem.
It's funny. I've been watching, there's this guy, and you might not know who he is, but I'll kind of, you would know the archetype of who he is. The guy's name is Gary V, and he's super popular on like TikTok now. But he's an entrepreneur. His family is entrepreneurial. Do you know the fellow I'm talking about?
I know who you're talking about. Yes. And
so his personality is pretty like abrasive sometimes and aggressive, but like the messages, some of his messages I find are resonating with me a little bit as I deal with things like imposter syndrome and stuff like that. But I'm thinking about who he's talking to now, just now, like, and I'm thinking about it, and those messages are definitely not the messages of like for women. Right. I feel like he's not, like, you never see him giving that advice like what he's saying. And I won't repeat it because most of it is laced with like F-bombs and stuff like that, because that's kind of his style. But he's never talking to women. And I doubt he would give the same advice to women as he gives to men, which is like to not give a damn about who you know, anything that people think about you, and just to go for it and be aggressive. And, what do you think about that? Like, I'm really interested. There's not many people speaking about leadership like that to women, is there?
No, there really isn't. There really isn't. And that's where I would take that conversation. And when I talk with others, I really follow a protocol for myself that I'm very consistent when I talk to men or women. I don't like try to poo-poo it to guys and say, oh no, we gotta cower down and we can't say it this way. I am very clear and concise of how I talk to men and women. And I will also say, I respect you this way, and I also expect to be respected in this manner, because I have this knowledge to bring to you, but I can learn so much from you at the same time.
What women have inspired you? Like, I mean, we've been thinking about International Women's Day. I've seen tons of awesome posts from women I respect, and I also loved even some of the posts where they said it doesn't always have to be these like strong alpha type women. You know, there's women of all types that are just inspiring and amazing people. So who were you thinking about yesterday during International Women's Day?
Well, there's a few I would say right away. I would say Grace Hopper is one of those. The whole conference that's coming up around that in the fall, I'm really excited about that. But what she has contributed to our world, again, can also be a quiet voice, but also then a very powerful voice to make change for in the women leadership scope. But then I also look to some of my very closest friends that are classroom teachers that are every single day in the classroom, working with teachers, working with students, that they are some of my greatest heroes right now because they're out there trying to make a difference and really make a difference with kids when they're really struggling. But other women in general, oh gosh, there's just almost too many to name because you see all the different types of women leaders. And even like Time, what was it just last week, announced the top 100 women leaders that some of you may not even be aware of that are out there that are so influential that they can be quite quiet, but have made such a contribution to the change of our world and basically the mentorship to girls and boys. And if we can actually be a mentor to boys and girls to model that practice, to actually be more compassionate, more understanding, more collaborative, but also how we can come together to change our world for good in so many different aspects. We all can be a mentor. It doesn't have to be somebody that is a famous movie star over here, or it has to be somebody that's won the Nobel Peace Prize for what they've done. It can still be your grandmother. It can be your mom. It can be a sister. It can be a colleague or a classmate. And that's what we don't understand. You can have the biggest impression to somebody that you've mentored, not realizing that you've changed their life for an eternity.
So I was just thinking, Naomi, you have traveled around. You've actually done so many different types of educational positions, from being a teacher to now even being a consultant. And the number one question right now in educators' minds, it has to do with basically what are we going to do if, and all the talk about the coronavirus. And it's already something that's actually happening in many school districts, even in the United States. So as you are traveling around, what are you recommending to educators as far as how do you manage, teaching and learning remotely? What types of training can we do in such a short period of time? Because many of us are being tasked with putting together plans right now with the prospects within the next few weeks, if not the next month, something is impending.
Right. That's a wonderful question, Glenn. And first of all, I just have to recommend, if you're not on Twitter, at least follow the hashtag that's called, the hashtag is remote learning. There's lots of resources that teachers are so diligently about sharing right now. Instead of everybody creating their own, let's work together and share those best practices. The other thing is, if we're only thinking about it now, it's almost like, wow, it's kind of late, isn't it? And we've been talking about blended learning and online learning forever. And it's like, whoa, we don't have a plan in place? What's going on here,
Oh, man.
But to be positive about thinking of this, some of our schools, I would say, kind of in the Midwest or are inundated with snowfall. I've worked with quite a few of East Coast schools and Midwest schools already that we've helped them this whole last year with what would we do if we have a major snowstorm or a blizzard, which many of them do. So we have created snow day activity events based on a whole STEM focus that kids actually are creating and making based on a STEM focus. They are doing reflection activities, they're creating, they're designing, and it's working. It's working well. The next part, I would say, what can we do to effectively blend? Because if we can't have all kids in school, but maybe kids are out sick or things like that, we've got to find a better way of finding the right tools to get the job done. So as an example, today, I have some teacher teams coming from Oregon and Washington State that were going to be coming to the Q conference in 1 week. Well, they're banned on travel because of the coronavirus. So instead, you got to quickly pivot, think on your feet, right? Because I already have a sold out session for my Makey Makey certification class. So I contacted Swivel, and no exchange of dollars at all. They're helping me here, saying I need to bring these teachers in from the state to earn the certification so they can really make a difference with their kids with learning, with creating and making. But even though we're going to be face-to-face over here in a conference venue. So they're quickly helping me get the right tools in place that we're going to record my session. And I think Mike knows too, when I when I present, I'm animated, I talk, I'm all over, just like Mike is too. But that camera will follow me when I move and will capture the audio recording is so brilliant too. But then they are going to bring in some other robotic cameras as well so that we can capture the authentic learning and the conversations with the teachers and groups. So then the teachers that are off site are going to learn just as if they would be right there in that classroom, and it will be archived, and then others can learn from it. So we've got to find creative blended learning strategies, and to help each other is what we have to do right now. And giving kids that choice. It doesn't mean that I always have to give them all this direct instruction. We can make it more modular based and activity based, but as we're still learning, focused on a structured effort to meet those learning outcomes and the needs of the student that's part of that learning system.
This has got to be seen as an opportunity. Like if educators aren't thinking about this as a chance to do everything they've been talking about for the last 20 years, and putting into practice things like flipped. I mean, how many decades have we been talking about flipped classrooms at this point? Mm-hmm. It's time to actually do it, people. I love, and you're seeing this, and I think you're talking about this and leading the way with what you're doing at Q. This is an opportunity, right?
This is a huge opportunity, and we have to model what we preach daily, right? Each of our positions between Mike, Glen, and you, we talk about this, and we have done it, but now we really need to model it for others and know how can we leverage industry partners to help us be our best selves, but also know that we can learn anywhere 24/7. We're not stuck behind a computer desk. We're not stuck behind a classroom desk. We've got to find a way creatively to meet the needs of the adult learners.
Awesome. Totally. So we ask a question to every guest that comes on. What are 3 pieces of media? It can be a book, it can be music, it can be an artist, it can be a movie, it can be anything, any piece of media. 3 pieces of media that have shaped your learning, inspired you, something that you're thinking about right now or reading right now that's causing you to think. Looking for 3 things that you can share with the audience to give them an insight into Naomi's thinking.
Well, here's one thing. I'm a very positive person, and I think, Mike, you probably have seen that before, but I love life in general. There's not a lot that gets me down. But I tell you, to start off my day, instead of always looking and reading from my phone or on my computer and going through email, sometimes that kind of drags me down. And it's like, I want something more positive and uplifting. So I start my day and I find a really interesting, just curiosity-based, I would say, TED Talk video. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 8 minutes, but it kind of energizes my day and gets me going. So that's one thing that's kind of my ritual things that I do. And it helps me with more of a backbone of all the research that I do, because I really am very much an advocate for always having research in anything that I teach, making sure that it's of value. So that's one way. Another way is I love listening to books on tape. It sounds strange. I want to take time to read the book. I like the tangibility, but I don't always have that time. So one of the books I reread again or listened to is called The Leader in Me. And if you haven't read that book, it's just excellent. I have a book study from one of our groups in Wisconsin that's using that as a focus for the students, helping students be the leader in themselves, of how that we talk about being good leaders, but we need to model that, and all the examples that go into that, and how we have our conversations, how we talk with one another, how our admin leaders meet each other even at the door for staff meetings. Are you giving each other a high five? Well, coronavirus, not now. We'll use an Elmo. We'll use our foot dance. We'll do something, right? But anytime that you can take a book and bring it out to the best and model that practice, even for 6-7 minutes in a staff meeting, we need to be doing that, because we need to model the research that's out there and what's working in education and celebrate it well. So I have a book. Let's see. I have my video connections that I do. Oh my gosh. What else would you say? Well, I reflect often. Some people probably think I'm a geek on doing that. I need to see the trends in my own learning. So I have a daily reflection journal. That's kind of something I start out in the morning. It could be a simple quick write of, okay, this is my target for the day. I want to accomplish this, but this is kind of where my thinking is at right now. And then throughout the day, I'll actually write something else. I'll say, oh, I got stuck here. Or excuse me, this really sucked today. This is not good. I need to change this. I got to change my mindset. And then by the end of the day, I wrap it up with my day of gratitude. What really went well? What can I change, and what can I even control and can't control? But how do I move forward? So gratitude is part of my everyday life and gift giving back. I just say together we're better. And I learned so much, even when I follow you on Twitter, how much I can learn from you in the shares and how much the teachers give back to me. And I pose a question. Sometimes I don't always get an answer, but there's a lot of people that say, how can I help? What can we do to lift each other up? And what can we do to help bring that learning to you? So gratitude is my third, I would say.
That's fantastic. So Naomi, talk about Twitter, how can people connect with you and maybe learn more about you and your consulting company, maybe to bring you to their schools? Absolutely. And that's what I love. I still love going to schools, but we'll find creative blended ways to learn from each other because of all the wonderful virus that's going around right now. But yes, I'm on Twitter, and it's just my name is Naomi Harm. So it's NaomiHarm. And my consulting company, I must say, again, my motto is together we're better. I work with brilliant women leaders, and I do have some men that we work with too. And there are full-time teachers is what they are. They're amazing teachers and tech coordinators and administrators. And we as a team create and make dynamic content that's research-based that we deliver on weekends, during the summer, and during the school year. So we do a lot of leadership that way. And teachers want to stay relevant, and they love teaching adult learners too. So most of us, we're teaching adult learners, but there are times that we set up and do engineering derbies, and we bring in kids and parents and just all kinds of staff on weekends. To me, a day is a day. The weekend doesn't matter. I teach all the time, but I love to share my passion and knowing that we can make a difference with kids to help them find their career and their dreams that they want. That's what it's all about right now, because I'm invested in helping kids really making their learning connection, because I now am a Nana. So I have a 6-year-old granddaughter, I have a 3-year-old grandson, and a 2-year-old granddaughter. And their world is so much different than any of what we've seen in the last 25 years. And we've got to support those kids. So here's my little wrap up with that. My 6-year-old granddaughter, we set up her own YouTube channel 2 weekends ago because that's what she wanted to do. She wants to teach people how to make slime and glow in the dark slime, of all things I learned from her. So it's like, well, let's do it. So she's not getting those experiences currently at her school. So it's like, let's find some STEM learning activities. Let's create your channel, and let's create your voice, and let's share your passion. So I tell you, that 6-year-old little girl is teaching me so much compared to I'm my 50-plus-year-old right now self. And I tell you, both generations can learn from each other, and that's what it's about.
Naomi Harm, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure, and it's a wonderful opportunity to learn from you also today. So happy 2-year anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to OnEducation. My name is Glenn Irvin. My co-host is Mike Washburn. OnEducation is part of the On Podcast Media Network. You can listen to this show and many others by great educators like Monica Burns, Mike Matera, Tisha Richmond, and many more by visiting onpodcastmedia.com. Want to get in touch with us? Check out our website at oneducationpodcast.com. You can tweet us at OnEducationPod. Mike is at Mr. Washburn on Twitter, and I can be found on Twitter at IrvSpanish. You can find us on Facebook by visiting facebook.com/OnEducationPod. We're also on Instagram at OnEducationPod. Want to support OnEducation? Visit our Patreon site at patreon.com/OnEducation. There, you can get access to full videos of the podcast and so much more. If you're enjoying the show and think others would too, we would be thrilled if you shared it with them. Please leave us a rating or a review in Apple Podcasts or the Google Play Store. When you leave a rating, it gives our rankings a boost. It helps others discover the show. We want to thank our presenting sponsor, Classcraft, for supporting us. Check out classcraft.com/OnEducation to learn more about them. Thanks as always for listening, stay awesome, and see you soon.